All right, it looks like the GOAT Caitlin Clark may be finally taking somewhat of a stand versus the nonsense that Stephanie White has been attempting to push upon her. We just saw Sophie Cunningham talk about Kelsey Mitchell potentially winning MVP.
There is a war happening inside the Indiana Fever organization right now, and nobody in the mainstream media has the guts to tell you the truth about it. This is not a simple disagreement between a coach and a player. This is a full-scale corporate power struggle between a head coach who thinks she runs a basketball team and a global business empire worth over $2 billion that has already decided she does not. Caitlin Clark just dropped the most dangerous warning shot of her entire career. She did not do it on the court. She did not do it in a press conference. She did it quietly, strategically, and with the full backing of Nike and NBC behind her. And Stephanie White has absolutely no idea what is about to hit her. Let me tell you exactly what is happening behind the scenes, because this story goes so much deeper than anyone is reporting. Caitlin Clark sat down with Yahoo Sports just days before the 2026 season opener and delivered what looked on the surface like a perfectly polished, completely harmless interview about endorsements and winning championships. But if you know how to read between the lines of superstar media manipulation, what she actually delivered was a precisely engineered corporate leverage play aimed directly at her own coaching staff. She said, "If I do not play basketball well, then none of this is going to come along with it." 7 words. That is all it took. 7 words that carried the combined financial weight of Nike, NBC, Gatorade, State Farm, Xfinity, and a $2.2 billion media rights deal. 7 words that told Stephanie White everything she needs to understand about the political reality of her own job security. Because here is what the mainstream media is completely missing. Caitlin Clark is no longer just a basketball player. She stopped being just a basketball player the moment she signed a $16 million endorsement portfolio while earning $119,000 in actual WNBA salary. Think about that ratio for 1 second. She makes 134 times more money off the court than she does on it. That is not an athlete. That is a Fortune 500 company that also happens to play basketball. And Fortune 500 companies do not allow middle management to sabotage their core product.
Okay. Caitlin Clark is a marketing juggernaut, but says winning will unlock more. At this point, Caitlin Clark can sign and secure any brand deal she wants. The only thing missing from her meteoric rise to global ubiquity is winning an elusive championship. The Indiana Fever superstar guard has
Stephanie White's off-the-ball system is not just a bad coaching decision. It is a direct threat to a $2 billion corporate infrastructure, and the corporations involved are not going to sit quietly and watch their primary investment get neutralized by a suffocating system designed for a different era of basketball. Start with Nike. On September 29th, Nike is launching the Caitlin 1, her first ever signature shoe. And Nike has publicly stated that the technology going into this specific sneaker is something they have never put into a basketball shoe before. Never. In the entire history of the company. Nike does not make that kind of statement about a role player. Nike does not pour tens of millions of dollars in research, development, and global marketing into someone who stands in the corner waiting for a pass. The Nike Caitlin 1 needs Caitlin Clark to be spectacular. It needs logo threes. It needs full court passes. It needs the jaw-dropping ball-dominant performance that made the entire world stop and pay attention. If Stephanie White's system produces a boring, passive, off-the-ball version of Caitlin Clark, Nike's entire launch strategy collapses. Do you honestly believe Nike is going to allow that to happen? This is the same company that turned Michael Jordan into a global religion. They know exactly how to protect their assets. And right now, Caitlin Clark is their most important asset in women's sports history. But Nike is just the beginning. The real nuclear option sitting behind Caitlin Clark right now has 3 letters: NBC. Here is what you need to understand about the NBC situation, because this is where the political pressure becomes genuinely terrifying for anyone standing between Caitlin Clark and the basketball. NBC just paid $2.2 billion as part of the WNBA's new media rights deal. $2.2 billion. That is not an investment in women's basketball in general. That is a specific calculated investment in one woman and the cultural phenomenon she created. NBC did not pay billions of dollars to broadcast Alia Boston posting up in the paint. They paid billions of dollars to broadcast the Caitlin Clark show. Every logo three, every no-look pass, every electric transition play that makes an entire arena lose its mind simultaneously.
Okay, right here, we want to highlight this. If I don't play basketball well, she replied, then none of this is going to come along with it. And that's what the fans love to watch. They love turning on the TV and watching us play the game. I think that's why the WNBA has grown so much. It is because people realize how good our craft is, how good the game is.
And now consider this. Caitlin Clark just signed a multi-year extension with Xfinity as their primary brand ambassador. Xfinity is owned by Comcast. Comcast owns NBC. That means Caitlin Clark is now the primary brand ambassador for the same parent company that owns the network broadcasting her games. She is not just the star of the show anymore. She is financially embedded into the network itself. She is so deeply integrated into NBC's basketball strategy that they literally sat her at the desk at Madison Square Garden alongside Carmelo Anthony and Tracy McGrady as a guest analyst for an NBA game. She is the face of their entire basketball operation. Now ask yourself one very serious question. What happens to Stephanie White's career the moment NBC executives start watching their $2.2 billion investment get neutralized by a suffocating off-the-ball system? What happens when the ratings start reflecting a less explosive, less dominant, less spectacular version of Caitlin Clark? Corporate leverage does not announce itself. It does not send a warning letter. It works through quiet conversations in boardrooms. It works through phone calls between network executives and team ownership. It works through the kind of systemic pressure that makes coaching decisions change overnight without any public explanation. Stephanie White is not just fighting a player who disagrees with her system. She is fighting a corporate media juggernaut that has billions of dollars riding on a very specific outcome, and she does not even fully understand the battlefield she is standing on.
AZ Fudd and the Dallas Wings on Saturday, she inked a multi-year extension with Xfinity as a brand ambassador that further establishes her status as a cornerstone in the company's basketball strategy, which includes its designation as the WNBA and NBA's official TV service provider, as Clark grows as an endorsement sensation in business.
Now let us talk about the narrative trap that certain players in this league are walking straight into. Sophie Cunningham went on a podcast and suggested that Kelsey Mitchell could win the MVP this season. Let us be completely clear about something. Kelsey Mitchell is a phenomenal basketball player. Nobody is taking that away from her. But Caitlin Clark was tied with Aja Wilson as the outright betting favorite to win MVP this season. She finished fourth in MVP voting as a rookie while playing through a groin injury, an ankle issue, and a condensed Olympic schedule all at the same time. The moment you start pushing a narrative that someone else deserves the MVP over the player who single-handedly forced a $2.2 billion television deal into existence, you are not just being disrespectful. You are participating in a coordinated narrative trap designed to minimize the most transformative player this league has ever seen. And Caitlin Clark is not going to let that narrative breathe for a single second. She told Yahoo Sports directly, "You have to be able to win. That is my main focus. Everything else will come along with that." That is not a humble team player quote. That is a calculated public statement from someone who understands that winning a championship is the only remaining piece of a global domination story that is already essentially complete. She is not chasing validation from this league anymore. She is chasing the one trophy that turns an icon into a legend. And she has made it perfectly clear that no coaching system, no narrative from teammates, and no institutional resistance from the WNBA establishment is going to stand between her and that goal. The Indiana Fever organization is sitting on the most valuable asset in the history of women's professional sports. She is backed by Nike's biggest shoe launch in years. She is embedded into a $2.2 billion broadcast partnership. She is generating $16 million in annual endorsements, while the league she plays in is only now catching up to the empire she already built. And right now, there is a head coach inside that organization who is actively attempting to diminish the role of that asset with a system built for a different kind of player in a different era of basketball. Stephanie White had better understand something very clearly and very quickly. The political war she is walking into is not a war she can win, because on one side you have a basketball coach, and on the other side you have Nike, NBC, Comcast, and a global superstar who just quietly reminded the entire world exactly who built this league and exactly who keeps the lights on. The nuclear bomb has already been dropped. The only question left is whether Stephanie White realizes it before the fallout reaches her completely. Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Is Stephanie White making the biggest mistake of her coaching career? Can she survive the corporate pressure that Caitlin Clark just activated? Subscribe right now, because this power struggle is only getting started, and we are going to be covering every single move as it happens.